Hi, I'm Eugene Soh. Thanks for having me at this Wide to Tall Film Festival. I run two companies. One of them is Dude, where we do a lot of art and tech stuff. Recently, a lot of Instagram filters, uh, Facebook filters, because a lot of brands, international brands, have been asking for it. So we do filters for people like Lego, McDonald's, and that's where where we make the money and improve our skill set also at the same time. And then we use the same skill set and that money to fund Mind Palace, my other company, which is a not-for-profit. You see, we burn money there, where we use the same skill set to build cool stuff for people living in nursing homes to improve their lives, well-being, their physical or mental well-being. I was learning programming in secondary school. Then with this pilot program that Republic Poly was doing, because I was playing a lot of games, like most other kids. I played a lot of games when I was a small boy, and then I wanted to make games. So when Republic Poly came by to teach us how to make games using this problem-based learning kind of thing, I jumped at it and kind of made my own game from. They had a set problem to make a tic-tac-toe game. Then once I finished that, I wanted to make my own game. So I started asking questions like, oh, how do you do this? Like, they didn't know what I was going to build, but in the next week, I brought back like a little fighting game that I made. Then they were like, wow, this kid, 14 years old. After that, I went to Republic Poly, and then I did computer programming, and I did 3D animation using Maya and I made a music video based on J. Joe's song, and used like Maya to do all the animation. I had to learn Maya on my own because they didn't specifically teach 3D animation when I was in that IT course. So it's really for my FYP, and then the FYP supervisor, who was very good, they was like, okay, just read the documentation, you'll be fine. And then I was fine. Once I mastered 3D, I used the 3D stuff to make 3D games. And then after that, it was 3D games with Unity. Then Singapore Tourism Board came to me asking me to turn my photography works, which I was also doing, but I always saw photography as like a separate route than programming, so I always kept them like separate. But Singapore Tourism Board came by to ask me, like, hey, why don't you take your photography works and put AR on them? Then at that time, I thought it was a terrible idea because people were using. Back then, when you tried to do AR for an exhibition, you had to ask people to download an app, and then nobody will go and download your app. Then all your effort is wasted, like putting the app on the app store. So much effort, and then like nobody download the app just to go and see your augmented reality. I thought that was a terrible idea. But they were telling me there was this new way of viewing augmented reality, which was through Facebook, which was an app that most people already have in their phones. So they scan a QR code, it opens up in their Facebook app, and then they can see the augmented reality on my photo already. So I actually didn't believe them, but I went to go and check it out anyway, and turns out they were right. So I went ahead with that project and finished my first 5 augmented reality works on Facebook in 2 months. In 2 months, yeah. While I was still on holiday in New Zealand, actually. Like New Zealand, I was like, it was a pre-planned holiday, so I was working on this AR stuff while there. Then after that, I was hooked already. I was like, wow, so easy to do. I mean, it is easy to me. Like, cannot like say it's too easy until people go and try. Then, hey, Eugene say it's so easy, but it's actually taking them a few hours to do. It was easy to me because of my background, because I do programming last time already. So I can do stuff very fast with Spark AR. That is that one. So I was doing lots of weird things that like censoring my nipples with emojis in AR, like, and stuff like that. Then I shared them on the community. They thought it was funny. So I think I got the attention of the creators of Spark AR. Then they enrolled me into the Instagram beta for it. Then I made the second custom Instagram filter in the world for this beta phase. So then once it was on Instagram, it started exploding already because people started wanting to make Instagram filters, and the way to make Instagram filters was through this Spark AR software. eventually I became a partner with Facebook. They made me an official partner, recognized me as like the best in the world, along with many others. So lately I'm going to be, maybe by the time you watch this, I've already given that talk, but I'm going to be speaking at Facebook Connect, which is like the global, it's a global conference. It used to be like they would fly us down to San Jose, which I've also been to their conference back then as an attendee, but now I am going to go as a speaker, and now we're going to do it remotely. It's going to be a remote thing, so not flying down there, which is quite sad, but it's also quite interesting because they're sending in all the camera gear for us to set up ourselves and film ourselves. My latest projects, other than the augmented reality stuff, which is also my latest project, the other line, which is under Mind Palace, so they are both kind of running at the same time. The other one is Mind Palace, where we use we started out as using virtual reality to help people with dementia relive past memories. Then we branched out from there to making VR experiences for the elderly in general, because like for people living with dementia, we found that we had to create very focused stuff just for them, because everybody is very unique. Sometimes we can make very general stuff like, okay, Haw-Par Villa, most people have been to Haw-Par Villa back then in their lives, and Chinatown. But to get to really let them reliving their past, we have to get to know them. And then we, like for example, we know that they have been a canteen auntie at school at Tanglin Hall. So we go back there and film scenes at Tanglin Hall, and then they will be reminiscing about the past while they are there. Then all this is too much effort to produce one film that works for one person. So we kind of branched out to making more general experiences that would work for most people in the nursing home. Then there was this one problem that we couldn't solve. My headsets were getting a bit smelly and a bit gross, like because we would bring the headsets to the nursing homes, and then they would bring it around. They would be sharing it around. We let them wear the hygiene mask and then use the antiseptic wipes to wipe the headset every time, but there's only so much you can wipe. So like every time you put it on, it gets a bit more gross. Then I think the breaking point was when I was updating the headsets, I put it to my own eyes, then my eyebrows started to itch. Also like, wow, if my eyebrows were itching, then I can't imagine the vulnerable people like the elderly putting it on. So I was like, okay, cannot. The only way to do VR is that if everybody have their own headset, then okay. But if shared headset, then it was a bit of a problem. Then this was all way before COVID-19 hit. Then I started to think of a better solution, which was to turn the entire room into the VR goggles. So they don't need to put it on their goggle. They don't need to put it on their face. They walk inside the room, and then wow, the whole scene is there already. So once we got that infrastructure up of the whole screen being the immersive room, which is what we're calling it, we also put in a little motion sensor, and then we can make games. Like the ones that is. I have one installation at the National Gallery which I made years ago using the Kinect sensor. It's still running there. It is at the Aki Gallery at the City Hall wing, level 4. 2 big projections in a corridor. You wave your hands left and right to virtually explore the old Supreme Court wing of you can get to go to the rooftop. I was the one who went to film that one, the virtual tour, and then you can go with me on my journey. Actually, you won't see me. I was hiding in all the virtual shots, but you can explore it on your own. So it's as if you are you are going up the roof and going to the rooftop of the Supreme Court yourself. So using that same concept of motion capture, we brought it to the nursing home, to the immersive room in the nursing home, where they can navigate their way through a 360 experience that we have filmed. Then with that same infrastructure, we can build exercise games. I have one boxing game and one exercise game which was really about diversity and inclusion, because we were thinking of pre-setting exercises, like the exercises that they do in the homes are stand up and sit down, just to stand up and sit down repeatedly. Very easy for young people to do, but this is a very good exercise for them to like stand up, sit down, because it improves circulation. So we were making preset exercises like that, but then we thought, okay, this wouldn't be inclusive for people who have to go by wheelchairs, who can't stand up and sit down. So we made it such that they set their own exercises at the start, and then after that they do that same exercise repeatedly, and they are rewarded based on how fast they do it. So we can give them a suggestion. Okay, maybe the first pose will be stand up, and then the second pose will be doing a squat. But they can do it the best way they can. They can do it the best way they can. Like if they are in a wheelchair, then maybe they will just like put their hands up. They'll get creative that way, and then set their own workout. Then once they got their own workout, we will time how fast they do it. Of course, they can't make it too easy, like, okay, the first pose like that, second pose like that, then they just need to flap their arms like that, and then they finish the whole workout. There'll be the caregiver at the side saying like, hey, that's too easy, come on, challenge yourself a bit more. So this was one of the solutions which I thought was very diversity, very inclusive of everybody based on whatever ability they are at. I guess, as I mentioned just now, the story of how, okay, got this infrastructure already, then hey, why don't we just take it one step further, improve it, then suddenly we are at this immersive room. I wouldn't say it was planned from the start, because it wasn't. It started with VR goggles, then suddenly, hey, the VR goggles smelly, and throw away the VR goggles, then we turn it into an immersive room. Then, hey, actually this immersive room can do this. So it's very evolutionary, I guess. So the ideas come and go. I guess I would be my worst client, because there will be clients who I've worked with, like suddenly when I finish their brief, and then they would be like, hey, why don't we do this? And then add something on top of it. I guess how you come up with ideas is very interesting, because I got a lot of ideas, but I don't like leaving my ideas as ideas, or like telling people my ideas before I do them. I like to like finish making something first, then I tell people. Otherwise it will sound very bullshitty, like, oh, I'm going to do this, going to do that, but then in the end don't do. So I always find that just do those ideas. So what I tell most people is, don't think too much about it, like, oh, do I have the ability to do it? Do I have maybe if you don't have enough money to do it, then maybe scale down your idea lah. Then like find ways and means to get to your solution, to solve the problem. Like most developers I work with, they get stumped with one problem, and then like, oh, okay, this thing is impossible, I can't do it. Then I will come in, and then I will spend like one day on it, and like, see, I finished already. So this is the kind of thing, like, maybe you really got to be creative about using the tools that you have in another way to solve certain issues. So I guess the same as trying to solve bugs, it is like figuring out what the problem is, and then what is causing that problem, and then trying to solve that specific problem and try not to get too narrow-minded about it, and take a step back and then see like what other tools you can use to fix it. Like for example, if I was very tunnel vision into solving the VR goggles issue, the hygiene issue, if I was tunnel vision about it, I'll be trying to make the headset cleaner instead of taking a step back and chucking the VR headset away and rebuilding the idea from scratch. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. To not hold your work too preciously, I guess. Like be ready to just restart from the ground up again, because that's where you started at anyway, right? So like, and all the work that you have done, don't think of it like, oh, it'll be wasted work. Just it'll be more effective if you chuck them all aside and start afresh. Especially if you're a programmer like me and you wrote like 600 lines of codes, and then there's like some bug somewhere that you can't solve, then sometimes I find it way faster if I just rewrote the whole thing from start with a new algorithm, because while writing that 600 lines of code, I would have learned something about the software, about my own algorithm, and be like trying to patch a problem, but instead of like trying to stack solutions on top of stack patches on top of each other, I found it easier to just like restart from scratch using this new algorithm that I thought of, and making a cleaner code, and it was much faster that way. So don't hold your work too preciously. And I think another vital point is that you have the ability to do things that nobody else has done. I think back in art school, I always found like creating artworks. I always found that creating artwork seemed to be like someone else has done it before, mine is not original. But that's where it starts. You do stuff that you think are not original, then you build your skill set. Then once you got your skill set ready, you can start to build stuff that nobody else has done before. Especially for new platforms like Spark AR. It is so new that whatever you do is almost like it's the first in the world already, especially if for stuff that there isn't any tutorials on, then you start to like figure stuff out on your own. Then suddenly you make AR racing game where you can get to race with Usain Bolt in AR. Yeah. So talking about doing new stuff that nobody has done before, I have a challenge for you. You know, 360 videos and immersive videos is what we are using inside the immersive room. And there's not too many 360 videos in Singapore, or not too many 360 VR video producers in Singapore at the moment. Mainly because not many people have the 360 cameras. But this challenge is for you to go and make your own 360 video that would be catered to the elderly. That would be the best ones would be to go to the old parts of Singapore and film those parts, and maybe take them on a tour. Take them on a tour of these old parts like Chinatown or Kampong Glam. Make it as diverse as possible. It can be like Indian centric, it can be Malay heritage, it can be Chinese heritage, any old part that hopefully is still preserved in Singapore. We go and film it in 360 first. Before it gets demolished, we go and film it all. Like you can also think of those old buildings that might be like en bloc or demolished soon. Take our 360 camera or your own 360 camera, go and do a documentary of that place and submit it to this competition, and you have a potential to win cash prizes. If you don't have your own cameras, we can make that available for you. We got some on loan for free, and we will teach you how to film and some tips and tricks. Some tips and tricks would be to not hold the camera and move. Leave the camera static, because there is a potential for you to like take the camera and swing it around and make like cool videos, but those are very dizzy. Any kind of movement, even if you like hit the tripod a bit, those will like disorientate the people. Because ours is an immersive room. It is almost like putting it on the goggles, and on the goggles is worse. You get like, so like static videos are the best. Like you take the tripod, leave it steady, film that part, and then go to the next scene and film that part. If you really have to get it moving, make sure you have a very big base below it. Like put it on, on a trishaw or something, so that they can see, the user when they're watching, they can see like at least there's a base around them. That really helps with the motion sickness. If you take the 360 camera, which the ones that we are loaning you is the small, is a small and handy one, but there are the big ones also. If you take that small one and swing it around, wow, very dizzy, cannot. Oh, and also another tip is to include multiple languages. So what we have been doing at Mind Fellas is also to film these tours. We did one recently with Cycling Without Age, where we do a trishaw tour. That's what I was talking about, trishaws. Putting it on a trishaw or going around to places and filming a tour. Then we would have a voiceover narrating, like, oh, on the left you see what, on the right you see what, and then we have it translated to the 4 different languages, English, Chinese, Malay, Tamil. Keep creating, keep creating. Don't stop creating, don't stop creating.